Actually, this is a huge hack for introverts. So if you're an introvert, you definitely want to pay attention to this episode. These are the ways, these are like the underground secrets. Like these are the hacks, the tips, the tricks that people don't talk about, because these aren't like your normal networking tips. These aren't your normal like how to work a room tips, right? These are things that are going to be the ninja strategies that are actually going to be able to get you results. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Freestyle Friday, where it's just me, you, and the mic. So I'm getting pumped about these Freestyle Friday episodes recently. I don't know about you guys, but it gives me a chance just to kind of get to know you a little bit better. And then you can also get to know me a little bit better. So obviously, if you're listening to this right now, I want to get to know you better. And the way to do that is make sure you take a screenshot of this episode, upload it to your Instagram story, and tag me in it. That's at Travis Chappell. And I'll be sure to head over there, give you some love, say what's up, and have a quick conversation. Also, if you're listening to this on the podcast, be sure to tune into the YouTube channel. All of the Freestyle Friday episodes from here on out are going to be uploaded on YouTube. And then also a lot of the interviews that I have coming out and that I've done in the past are going to be uploading to YouTube here in the coming months. So travischappell.com/YouTube. Make sure to go check it out and subscribe over there. So today I want to talk to you about how to become a person that people want to connect with. And by the way, if you're paying attention to this right now and you are noticing that it's a little bit of a different background, I mentioned this before, like I'm knocking out a few of these Freestyle Fridays while I'm up here in Oregon at a hotel, which is one of the amazing things about what I get to do now is like, I'm literally just sitting in my hotel room. I have a mobile setup. I'm holding a microphone. It's plugged into my computer. I have my webcam on, and now I'm recording podcast episodes. So one of the really cool things about podcasting. But anyway, I digress. Let's jump into the material that I have today. So how to get people to want to connect with you. So there's a big difference between trying to go connect with other people and being the person that people want to connect with. And the best way that I can explain that difference is, let's say you go to an event and you were not speaking at that event and somebody else is speaking at that event. Both of you are there. Let's say you have done the same exact things in life. You have the same exact resume, the same exact accomplishments. Everything's the same, but one person's speaking and one person's not speaking. Which one of those people becomes the person of interest at that event? Which one of those people becomes the person more interesting to connect with? The person who spoke. That's just how it is, because they have the stage, they have the influence and the presence at that event. So the goal here is to try to get people to want to connect with you. And especially, this is a huge hack for introverts. So if you're an introvert, you definitely want to pay attention to this episode. These are the ways, these are like the underground secrets. Like these are the hacks, the tips, the tricks that people don't talk about, because these aren't like your normal networking tips. These aren't your normal like how to work a room tips, right? These are things that are going to be the ninja strategies that are actually going to be able to get you results. So if you're an introvert, make sure to pay attention. There are, in my opinion, 3 different ways to attract people into your network instead of being the one to always be reaching out. I think you should be doing both. I think that you should always be reaching out to people who will not be attracted into your network, but I think that you should also constantly be working on yourself in a way that makes you more of an attractive person to connect with. So 3 ways, I think, to become that person. Number 1, become a person of influence. So this one is huge, and this is one of the bigger reasons, in my opinion, to start your own show, whether it be a podcast, a YouTube channel, a meetup, your own platform. Have your own platform, your own audience. If you can cultivate an audience, and by the way, this is for speakers, for authors, like any of those types of platforms. If you can cultivate an audience, then you automatically become somebody of interest. And the way that that's been really showing itself true in my life is now I have a podcast that has, hit some of the top charts, that has a good size audience. And it's crazy to me, some of the people that want to connect with me because of that quote unquote accomplishment, because of that part of my, resume, even though I don't really have a physical resume, but hey, air quotes resume. So it's crazy to me, like just the qualifications some people have, like literally people who are running companies that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars, people whose achievements I perceive to be, way above what I've been able to do. And yet they still want to connect with me. And I think one of the reasons that is, and probably the main reason, is because if you build up any sort of influence, you have something of value to offer somebody who's done incredible things. Like somebody who's just done so many amazing things, but they don't have influence or an audience, they need people like you. They need ways to get their message out into the world if that's something that's important to them. And so if you can become that person, if you can become a person of influence, then you can attract some of those people into your life. And not just in a way where it's like, oh, we had a conversation one time, but in a way where it's like, oh, I actually was just texting this person this morning or whatever. I constantly am just so grateful, just so grateful when I search through, when I look through my previous texts in the last day or two, just to see the different names that are on there that weren't there a year and a half, 2 years ago before I started this show. And look, I haven't even scratched the surface of what's possible in this industry, and it's already begun to happen, which makes me believe in it so much more. But then you look at other people like my buddy Jordan Harbinger, who's constantly crushing the podcast game. He gets over 5.5 million downloads every single month on his show. And you look at somebody like that, and you look at the people that he's able to connect with, like just having Chelsea Handler on his show, and Russell Brand, and Shaquille O'Neal, and Charlemagne the God, and all these different types of people that Jordan's able to connect with, is because he's a person of influence, because he becomes a person that's interesting to connect with, because he has a way for them to get their message out into the world. And that's why he's been a guest on Adam Carolla and a guest on Bert Kreischer's show, and just was able to have people like Chelsea Handler on, and then I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this, but people like Howie Mandel that he has coming up. There's so many different people that he's gotten on his show that he's been able to connect with, have real life conversations with, that would have otherwise had no interest in being, or not even interest, just like wouldn't even been on their radar. But now he gets to have conversations with them because he's a person of influence, and he's worked really hard on that to become one of the best people out there. So become a person of influence. Number 2, become a person of interest. So this is another thing. This is a really good example. A really good way to tell this is look at Joe Rogan's podcast guest lineup. So to give you an idea, Joe Rogan did the first thing. He became a person of influence, right? He has over 100 million downloads every single month on his show, the Joe Rogan Experience. And if you look at the people, the guest list that he has, the people that come on, a lot of people you don't even recognize. They're not the biggest names in the world, even though that his media channel is, one of the highest trafficked media distribution channels literally in the world, comparing it with, billion-dollar organizations and stuff, which is absolutely crazy. But he gets all these different people on his show, and they're not even like super influential people themselves. Like, you don't even know who they are. Not a lot of them are household names, different things like that. But what they are, the thing that they have in common, every person that goes on his show, the thing they have in common is they're interesting to Joe. They're just interesting people. They have interesting resumes. They have interesting things that they've done. They've been to, a lot of countries, or they've written a lot of books, or they've, been a biohacker and figured out how to hack a certain part of their health doing a certain weird thing that nobody thought of before. Like, they're just interesting people. And there's a networking thing that people teach, and they say be interested, not interesting, meaning like talk more about the other person you talk about yourself. And while I agree with that principle and I understand the premise of that, I tell people be interested and interesting, because the more interesting you are, the more you're going to attract people to want to connect with you. Like, it's not just about like conquering the cocktail mixer. That's not what I'm talking about. This is much bigger than that. This is the difference between always having to push to find people and people wanting to come up to you to do business with you or connect with you, because you are now a person of interest, whatever that is. And just to give you a shortcut example, my buddy Davey is Manny Pacquiao's personal assistant, and he's been able to make some amazing connections with amazing people all across the world. But the reason that he was able to do that is because he became a person of interest, because he is Manny Pacquiao's assistant. That's an interesting thing. There's a lot of things that he gets to do that people will never even ever be able to experience. And so he's become a person of interest, which makes him an interesting person to connect with, and somebody that a lot of people like to connect with. So number 1, become a person of influence. Number 2, try to become a person of interest. And then lastly, become a person of value. This is really what it boils down to. And really the first two can be, summarized into this one. Like really it all comes down to this: be a person of value. Figure out a way that you can add value to people. And the more you go in your career, the more times that you do this, the more apparent and clear that value will be. But when you're first starting out, you don't know what it is. And when I first started out, my value offer was to volunteer to work John Lee Dumas's booth, who is, if you don't know who he is, he's a multi 7-figure podcaster that I wanted to model in my podcasting business. And I knew that I wanted to build a friendship relationship with the guy and get around him more. So instead of asking for free mentorship, I volunteered my time, which was worth a good amount of money because I was selling stuff back then. And I could have used those entire weekends. I did it twice, used those entire weekends to be selling my product to a bunch of different customers and making good money doing it. But instead I volunteered my time to work for John for free to do it for him. But that was because that was the only way that I knew how to add value. I went heavy and I added a lot of value as much as I could up front. And I continued to do that over the course of the relationship that I have with him, which now he's a good friend of mine and I can call on him almost any time that I need something. Like if there's a fork in the road and I'm not sure what to do, John's always there to guide me because I have a real relationship with the guy. It's because it was based on value. It wasn't based on me trying to, suck as much as I could, out of it. That's just not how relationships work. So become a person of value, whatever that means. Now, a lot of the value that I add to people, it has a lot to do with my connections and getting in, meeting somebody new, connecting them to a bunch of other people. And I did this kind of with Molly Bloom for a lot of you that have heard her episode on the show. If you haven't heard her episode, you should go back and listen to it. Molly has an incredible story. There's an entire movie made about her life starring Jessica Chastain as Molly. Idris Elba plays her lawyer and Kevin Costner plays her dad. It's called Molly's Game. It's an awesome movie. Highly recommend watching it. But when I connected with Molly, I was the first one in this world to connect with her. So I introduced her to my buddy Jordan, who runs a show with millions of downloads. I introduced her to my buddy Cole, who was able to get her to speak on his stage of over 1,200 people live. And there's so many different avenues that I was able to add value to her. And now she's a friend. I can text her and she'll text me back and different things like that. And it's not a magic thing. It's not a mystical thing. It's just you figure out a way to add value to people. And if you continue to add value to people, that's how you build real relationships. So become a person of influence, become a person of interest, or become a person of value. I guess it could just be and become a person of value. Become a person of value by becoming a person of interest and influence, I guess it would be a better way to say it. But do one, do two, do all three if you can, but start implementing these things, because if you become a person of value, a person of interest, and a person of influence, you're going to start seeing that people are going to want to connect with you. And tying this back in from the beginning, if you're an introvert, if people connect with you, you're using way less energy than you would be if you have to be the one to go out and connect with other people. So become the person that people want to connect with. If you're checking this out right now, please be sure to screenshot this, upload it to your Instagram story, tag me at Travis Chappell. I'll come over there and say what's up. And then make sure to check this out over on YouTube. Check out the rest of the channel, a couple of the bigger interviews that we have going up there. That's travischappell.com/YouTube. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Peace.